Let's talk about this. So, trial of the century. It's going down Monday. It's important that you all know how it's going to work in the format so that we can come in here ready to go. Also, so that you can spend the last couple of days here putting the finishing touches on the way in which you're going to make your arguments. So, we have 40 minutes. That means that as soon as class starts, opening statements are happening. You have no time to confer if we're going to be able to make it through this in time. So if you want to meet as a group and get everyone on the same page prior to the start, you either need to have that meeting during advisory, figure out a way to get everyone together, or during or before school. 8:30 hits, opening statements. Now, opening statements at minimum are going to be you reciting your thesis about why your character is innocent. You are not saying anything about any other character in your opening statement. It's just society is innocent or at least culpable because blank or Victor or whatever. Now, everyone has an approved thesis statements. Everyone has approved evidence. So how do we determine winners and losers here? And we are going to determine winners and losers. It's not going to be who has like the best sentence. All sentences are good. It's going to be who does the best job of presenting their argument and marshaling through their point. So with that said, you could at minimum just state your thesis. However, a group that does a better job of introducing their thesis is going to come off as more well prepared. This doesn't mean that you read like an introductory paragraph. We only have 5 minutes to get through 3 statements. So that means you have about a minute 15, a minute 30 of airtime. But if you want to preface your thesis statement with something that either grabs attention or adds more context or makes things more interesting, you're going to be good to go. So that's 5 minutes opening statements. Any questions about that? Okay, then we move on to what will take the bulk of our time, 30 minutes for witness presentation of evidence and cross-examination. This breaks down to about 10 minutes per character. So the way that's going to function is like this. So the first character to take the stand is going to be Victor. Okay, Victor will first be questioned by his own lawyers. Then the creation lawyer team will have an opportunity to cross-examine. Society will have an opportunity to cross-examine. If time permits, Victor gets a chance to respond. Creation gets a chance to go at it again. Society gets a chance to go at it again before Victor gets the last word. However, again, we only have 10 minutes per character. So we might end up with society getting their cross-examination and then that being that. The process will repeat for the creation's own attorneys, and then cross, chance to respond, final word, and then society. Now, the schemers in the classroom are probably thinking to themselves, well, if I just spend 10 minutes questioning Victor, well, then nobody has an opportunity for cross-examination. And so we just get to present our idea. And won't that be nice? Then that's true. But you're in my courtroom. That means you got Lindenberg justice. And I'm going to keep things moving along. If I feel like you are struggling, you are ill-prepared to use your evidence, the evidence you present might be weak. And even if it's strong, if you're just kind of dithering around out there, I'm just going to move things along. Not going to let you waste time because I want to give everyone their fair shake at this. We might, Victor, I might cut you off and say we got to get going because they need their crack and they need their crack. You can at minimum expect about 3 minutes of time to go with stuff. Everyone's going to get a chance for cross-examination. You'll have 3 minutes for cross-examination. Now, this means you don't have an infinite amount of time to present an infinite amount of evidence. So it would be in your best interest these next couple days to figure out what are the strongest pieces of evidence that you want to drive home. What are the money quotes? Okay? You have, and the Victor Frankenstein group has like 90 million quotes per each character, which is great. You have a mountain of evidence. You've also given the other teams a mountain of evidence that they have to prepare for. Okay? But what is going to be the main things that you use to drive home? Does that make sense? Okay. So I'll keep things cruising. this character will have a chance to end the discussion, though. So when it's Victor's turn on the stand, everyone will get a crack at him, but they get last word. Same thing for the creation, same thing for society. Does that make sense in terms of format? Okay, now how it works. Okay, so we need a person to take the part of a character. Who's going to be playing one of your characters? Mr. Nelson, who are you?
I'm Victor.
All right, come on up, Victor. Witness stand. No. And we'll have some sort of like Judge Judy music playing. Maybe a little Law and Order.
That sign really makes him look
And
innocent,
that-
by the way.
Yeah. Judge Luke. Okay, so we have Victor on the stand right now. So who gets first crack at Victor? Team Victor, right? So what we're doing is kind of working in collaboration to present almost like a verbal paragraph that cements our argument. I know my thesis statement, right? For why Victor is innocent. Okay, so I might lead off with something like that. And then this doesn't need to be too cute in the sense of there doesn't need to be much like verbal banter. I could present the thesis statement and then I could say to Victor, Victor, can you remember any moments in the text where you, and then maybe I focus on a specific part of my thesis? Like, what is your thesis statement?
Well, it's written down, I don't know, verbatim.
But just give me the general.
Well, it's
brush
essentially, he admits his, obviously he created it, however society let him down and that he had to search for information.
So society let him down, he had to search for information, and maybe one other thing. So I could say, hey, Victor, can you recall any instances where society has let you down? And then Victor could take the baton and maybe read some quotes or talk about a specific moment where society let him down. And then I could take the baton back from him and analyze how and why that is society letting him down and kind of making my claim. Or vice versa. I could go, Victor, do you recall saying, and then I could read the quote. And then I could ask you, Victor, can you tell me how that is society letting you down? And that would give you an opportunity to talk about how quote supports topic sentence. So we're kind of just presenting a paragraph in verbal form. It's not too complex. The demands on you aren't too much because this can be very well prepared. Okay? And the same thing would hold true for when the creation is on here. The same thing would hold true for when society's on here. So does that make sense, class, in terms of how you would interview or interrogate your own witness? Question.
We can, like, if we were playing like society, can we have paper up there?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. You can have paper up here, note cards, whatever floats your boat. This minorly gets to presentation of evidence, though. Like if I'm just reading and he's reading and it's very stilted and off, then that's going to ding you a little bit if other people are able to do this give and take with a little bit more fluidity.
But it doesn't need to be memorized.
It does not need to be memorized. You just want things prepared. Okay, so when you're interviewing your own person, you want things prepared. You want your argument to be clean and smooth. Remember, you only have about 3 minutes. Okay, so what are the main points of emphasis going to be? Was that a hand shooting up or not?
No.
Okay, so after Victor goes, Victor's legal team, then who comes up? The creation. Okay, so now cross-examination time. Okay, and this is where the demands of your character increase significantly. Because you are aware of the things that I'm going to say. Like you know what my argument is, right? Because it's in that sheet. And you know what evidence I'm going to use or pick from because all that evidence is in that sheet. But you don't know how I'm going to go about things. So you can be prepared for this verbal sparring match, but you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So the ability of your character to think on their feet and to be encyclopedic in their knowledge is important. So I'm going to come up as the creation, okay? And I'm going to be, God, isn't it true that you left me?
I was scared.
Yeah. Hey, so as the creation's attorney or whatever, I'm going to come up and I'm going to say, yeah, Victor, that all sounds nice and pretty, but I would say blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to present evidence on page whatever. You state explicitly blank. So I give you that quote. And then I'm going to say maybe something about that quote. And then you have a chance to respond. Now, you can respond by talking about how maybe I am misinterpreting that quote. And then I'm going to come back at you maybe with another quote that reinforces that point. Say, oh, maybe I did that, but also this and this and this. There's a mountain of evidence that proves this. Or you can respond with another quote. Well, yeah, that is true. I did say that, but I also said this. And this is more important because this is a much more intricate dance than the initial presentation of fact. Okay? And this is where you are either going to do a good job of marshaling your evidence of why they're more guilty than you, or you're going to do a good job of marshaling your argument about why my argument doesn't hold water. If you have more things to shoot me down than I have to shoot you down, that's kind of how the needle's going to move in that case. Now, this is also where, as audience members, you get to object. So I say something, isn't it true that blank? And you say, no, I'm just a nice guy who didn't know what he was doing. Okay, I object, right? He did, in fact, know what he was doing. In fact, he said, I knew what I was doing. Yeah. Darn it. Yep. Objection sustained, reprimanded, point for this person. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so this is where, as a team, you're going to want to be ready, anticipate what they're going to say. And generally the argument he's going to use for why he's innocent. Okay, how can you deconstruct that? How can you dissect that? You know what I'm going to use to try to prove you guilty. How can my legal team be ready to help me out on the stand and dissect that? Okay, if I say something that's misguided or misplaced, if you can object and support your objection with evidence in the form of quotes, this is what it has to be, then you win. That's like a tally for your half. So that's how the objection, or that's how cross-examination works. And more art and nuance in that than just kind of interviewing your own buddy. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've gone over when you're questioning your own person, it's like a verbal paragraph. Present an evidence and analysis in pair, you're working for each other. Cross-examination, then you're kind of parrying quotes and analyzing those quotes kind of more in a free form. I might interject, lawyers might object, and that's the witness presentation. Does that make sense? Mr. Musta, I know you were wondering, not Musta, it was Mr. Brown, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. You were wondering how this was going to shake out. Does this make sense for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Question?
So essentially this trial is going to be trying to push our guilt for like the murders of these individuals, or like what? The creation of this
The
team?
question is, who is most responsible / most innocent when it comes to the death that exists in Frankenstein?
The death.
Yep. So when you're up here as Victor, you are trying to paint yourself as most innocent. You can't necessarily push responsibility upon other people because we're questioning you. When the other people come up here, that's where you want to present them as more guilty than, or more responsible than your character. Got it? Okay. And we'll have a most innocent, that's going to be the group that wins. Most guilty, that's going to be the group that loses. And then one group is just kind of in the middle. After witness presentation, evidence cross-examination, we're going to have a brief recess. During that recess, you can collaborate with your team to prepare your closing arguments. Your closing arguments should already generally be prepared, and they already are, in the sense of you have your thesis statements for why you're innocent and why everyone else is guilty. So your closing argument at minimum is just going to be you summarizing why your guy's innocent and why everyone else is more guilty than you are, which is your thesis statements. If you want to be better than that, you can use the events that transpired here and the things that people say to augment what you already have planned. Maybe you sub something out and sub something else in based on this. That would show a more engaged and nuanced understanding of what happened in the trial than versus just repeating your thesis statement in your topic sentences. Got it? So this is how the trial shakes out. What you should be doing in the next 2 days would be deciding what evidence you are going to use, the lines of questioning you're going to push. Person who's going on the stand, they need to be prepared. People who are doing the lawyering, you also need to be prepared for that verbal jousting that's going to happen. if Victor, if you want to be a lawyer who's up here speaking, that's fine. You can defend yourself as well. But it might work out better too to have people designated to taking care of one character so that they can be experts. You don't want to put too much responsibility on somebody's shoulders. On Tuesday, you're going to do your last peer review, where you're going to give everyone a percentage out of 100 again. That is going to be their final percentage. So you have between now and Monday to make your worth to your group known. Anything else? All right. Thank you for visiting. Those of you that have to go back to class or whatever, the rest of the time is yours to get yourself ready to party. Thank you, Victor.
That was closer to 20 minutes, but